pestilence, war. God keeps saying to a nation, repent, don't go there. He keeps turning up the heat.
The last 7 Shemitas, there's been a collapse every time, and the last 2 has been on that exact date. We're at a tipping point, and I believe we're past one of the tipping points, things that could foreshadow what could be the falling of America. And then you put this all together with what's happening in America right now. You put it together what's happening morally, spiritually, and put it together with what's happening with Israel, with America, blessing Israel or not blessing Israel, and it becomes ominous.
Listen to this. We have multiple prophets that are saying that 2016, it's not going to be life as usual in America. Everything is going to be turned upside down. Everything is converging now. Well, you know what I told Jim? I said, Jim, this is the last time in over 400 years that we're going to have a tetrad, 4 blood moons on Jewish holy days.
And the tragedy that I worry about is that the least prepared population on the planet Earth for what's coming, the one that's least prepared, is the American citizen.
Yeah. If people have money sitting in a bank, they would be way better off to have it sitting in food. The stuff that you can buy right now, this long-term storage food kits and the dehydrated foods that you're selling, that stuff will be like gold.
We would have never known anything about earthquakes being a sign of his coming had Jesus himself not told us that. Isaiah, it says there will be such an earthquake that the earth will reel to and fro like a drunkard. And it said that the islands of the sea will pass away and the cities of the nation will fall.
So we've killed around 70 million of our babies, and you can't say we're good people.
This is the time God answers the hiss of the heathen. The heathen have been mocking the church. The media and the heathen, they're going, ha! Where is your God? Well, this is the year he answers. So we're living in a time when the dark is going to get darker, but the radical remnant is going to get brighter and brighter.
We need repentance. America is not good anymore.
And the Holy Spirit said to me, there is a consuming fire coming to America. I don't know how it's coming. I don't know the form. I don't know if it's an asteroid. I don't know if it's an army. I don't know if it's riots. I don't know. The Lord is saying, tell the people, a fire is coming. It will singe the sinners and purify the saints.
The apostasy of America is accelerating, and God is not mocked. So I believe all these things are cause that we need to be ready. We need to be prepared.
We've got to get in the will of God. There's no safer place than the will of God.
The most important preparation is get right with God.
Do you know where the safest place to be in? It's very clear. You want to be right in the center of God's will.
My spirit and what I'm seeing in the Word of God is telling me time is running out.
We have banned God. We have mocked God. Judgment, I believe, is about to fall.
Based on their observations, the members of the Bulletin of the Atomic Scientists Science and Security Board find conditions in the world to be so threatening that they are moving the hands of the doomsday clock 2 minutes closer to midnight. It is now 3 minutes to midnight. Today, unchecked climate change and a nuclear arms race resulting from modernization of huge arsenals pose extraordinary and undeniable threats to the continued existence of humanity. And world leaders have failed to act with the speed or on the scale required to protect citizens from potential catastrophe. Countries emitting carbon dioxide and other greenhouse gases are on the way to profoundly transforming Earth's climate, harming millions upon millions of people with sea level rise, diminished food supplies, and even more droughts, wildfires, and killer storms than we have today. These consequences of a changing climate will test our ingenuity and the capacity for global leadership. The danger is great.
Scientists warn of grave consequences in this century if global temperatures keep rising. Rising ocean levels, deadly extreme weather, and droughts that can harm food production. Record temperatures were spread around the globe, from Europe to North Africa, from the western United States to far eastern Russia and elsewhere.
The weather has turned serious tonight, a big area moving in to stay. The air has come from the Arctic. It will stretch so far west to east and so deep into the south that tonight the estimate is most of the country, 240 million people, will be affected by this.
There's no end in sight to America's big freeze, with 2/3 of the country shivering through sub-zero temperatures, snow and ice. 26 states are recording temperatures below -17 degrees.
Gales will continue to whip across Scotland, the whole of Scotland. Warnings there that winds may exceed 100 miles an hour, so hurricane-force winds. There were record wind speeds recorded on Stornoway of 113 miles an hour. Now, at its peak, it knocked out 100,000 people's power.
Natural disasters are at a fever pitch, which open up a huge subject concerning the end time.
This morning, history is blanketing Boston. Millions wake up to over 6 feet of snow falling in the city since mid-January, making the past 30 days the snowiest month in history.
No city administration has ever dealt with this much snow in a very short period of time. It's very unusual circumstances. We've had 7.5 feet of snow, which puts us in the number 2 category of all-time snow in the history of Boston.
The storm sweeping across 11 states and pounding New England yet again, burying Boston in more snow than D.C., Baltimore, Philly, and New York combined.
Back in Boston, they're running out of room. Look at all of this snow, and there are mountains of it growing all over the city, not just in one season, but in just over the past 2 weeks.
And forecasters say there's more snow on the way.
2 powerful cyclones have smashed into northern Australia. Parts of Queensland and the Northern Territory were hit.
Reports of destruction are mounting from Cyclone Marcia, one of the most powerful storms ever to strike Australia. This morning it hit the Queensland coast as a Category 5, tearing homes apart.
Multiple houses stood stripped and broken. The aftermath of a Category 5 with wind gusts up to 300 kilometres an hour.
It just keeps coming. Winter's parade of misery.
The storms have spread as far south as Indiana and Kentucky.
In so many places, life as people know it is frozen in time.
From a frozen Niagara Falls and Lake Erie in the north to snow in the south, the eastern third of the country is locked in the deep freeze.
Experts said it could go as low as -23.
And deadly storms on the roads and on the tarmac tonight. The NTSB on the scene here in New York after a Delta passenger jet making a landing could not stop on a very slick runway. Crashing through that fence, the nose of the plane breaking through, coming to a halt just feet from the icy water. This image taken by a passenger inside the plane looking out how close they came to that water. Moments later, the crew with fuel leaking, getting passengers off the plane, coming down the wing, standing out in the snow. There were also deadly accidents today. Drivers stranded for miles, some up to 16 hours.
The governor of Kentucky declared a state of emergency today. Parts of the Commonwealth got as much as 2 feet of snow, bringing highway traffic to a stop.
The line of stranded tractor trailers stretched down the highway for 40 miles. Icy roads caused several accidents that shut down 2 major highways in Kentucky, stranding more than 600 vehicles overnight. Heavy snow added to the misery on I-65, and traffic on I-24 was disrupted from the Illinois state line to the Tennessee border. Governor Steve Beshear has declared a state of emergency and deployed the National Guard to help stranded drivers.
The stunning landscape of Patagonia, set against the backdrop of smoke, the product of Argentina's worst ever forest fires, raging now for weeks. Teams of planes relay out to combat the fires, which are remote but visible from local towns. They detect fires by satellite or simply follow the smoke spiralling up. Some 240 firefighters are working in small teams on the ground to stop the fire's spread. Most have left their jobs and families to be here to help.
State of emergency has been declared in Chuuk, which is the largest region in the Federated States of Micronesia, as residents appeal for help in the wake of Super Typhoon Maysak. 5 people were killed in Chuuk and houses and crops were destroyed as the Super Typhoon slowly made its way across the Micronesia archipelago. The eye of the storm passed over the Ulithi Atoll on Tuesday night, hitting it with a 260 km/h wind force. Only concrete structures have been left standing.
It's one of the worst die-offs of marine birds in history, and it's taking place along the west coast of the U.S. and Canada. Thousands of seabirds are dying, and scientists are trying to figure out why.
They're probably not finding food there or enough food, and that's causing some of the population to come closer to shore. And they're not finding food there, obviously, because they're...
24 birds have been found dead on the waterfront in the town of Tonawanda. A viewer alerted us to this problem, saying they've never seen anything like this near Aqua Lane Park.
Birds were found dead earlier this week.
I've lived here my entire life. I've never seen something like this.
Turtles are washing up on Long Island beaches and they are dying. This die-off could threaten the turtle population in our area. It could also signal trouble for fish, shellfish, and the health of our bays.
In a rare die-off, some 100 diamondbacks have washed ashore from Peconic Bay to Flanders with no signs of trauma. Beachcomber sightings were first documented by Southold Local. Why are turtles dying in droves?
Something alarming washing up on the beach, and there was no injuries whatsoever on the bodies.
Also impacting food prices, the biggest outbreak of bird flu ever in the United States. The virus is ravaging poultry farms across the Middle West and starting to affect major food companies.
The worst outbreak of avian influenza to ever hit the U.S., with more than 33 million birds now affected across 16 states.
We haven't seen anything like this, certainly on the poultry side.
Honeybees are an essential part of American food production, but now they are dying off at an alarming rate. Nearly half of all colonies gone in the last year. That is a sharp increase from years past.
David Hackenberg has never seen so much blight in his half-century as a beekeeper.
Well, years ago, it was pretty easy to keep bees. Unfortunately, that's not the case anymore. Summer is traditionally this great time, and bees should thrive. And here they're not. They're dying at a higher rate.
The exact cause of the growing die-offs is not known.
Impact of America's biggest offshore oil spill. It comes as officials are grappling with a new spill along the coast of Southern California near Santa Barbara. It began yesterday when an onshore pipeline ruptured. Are the bottlenose dolphins still dying off, or was this a one-time phenomenon?
The deaths have occurred ever since the spill began all the way to the present day. Following a mystery tonight in Seminole County, hundreds of fish turned up dead overnight in one popular lake.
And tonight, residents of the Sweetwater Oaks community in Longwood are shocked and demanding answers.
It's a sight that has many neighbors in shock. Scores of fish dead overnight.
I'm just flabbergasted. I just don't understand what's happened.
Sasha Sanchez discovered the fish kill around 7 a.m. This just happened overnight?
Yes.
Just like that?
Just like that. This was not like this yesterday.
Are now coping with a major crisis involving sea lions. So far this year, more than 2,000 sea lions have been found starving and stranded on California beaches. More than half turned up last month.
John, the National Oceanic and Atmospheric Administration today confirmed that over 2,250 sea lions, mostly pups, have been found in terrible shape on the beaches of Central California. That number is, unfortunately, John, a new record.
Drought in the U.S. state of California is now the worst in over 1,000 years. The region is fast running out of water.
By now, we've all heard about the record-breaking drought in California. The state is heading into its 4th year of bone-dry conditions with little liquid relief in sight. And now, for the first time in California's history, the governor has ordered mandatory water use reductions, saying the state's drought has reached near-crisis proportions after a winter of record low snowfall.
Oh my God, this is violent. You guys, it's right there, right there.
Stop. We're good. Oh my gosh. Oh my God. Oh my God.
It hit cars. It hit cars.
Look at there goes cars. What?
Oh my God.
I saw headlights go flying. Oh my gosh. Oh shit! He's over.
Oh shit!
Call 911. Go!
Gordon, supercell thunderstorms produced a huge tornado in Illinois, striking different parts of the state. It killed a 67-year-old woman and injured 7 others in a small town in northern Illinois. The tornado also touched down in Rochelle, a small town about an hour and a half southwest of Chicago. One woman said she'd lived there 18 years, but had never seen a tornado that big or stay on the ground that long.
That severe weather in the Midwest, millions affected by tornadoes, hail, flash floods.
But take a look behind me. 70-mile-per-hour winds, perhaps even stronger, ripped part of this roof off. We're seeing damage like this all across this country.
Tornado on the ground.
Overnight, wild weather across much of the country. Look at that. Funnel clouds forming across the heartland.
Another one coming down there.
A rainbow appearing in the midst of this tornado. In Kansas, hail hammering drivers so hard, this storm chaser windshield shatters as they battle the elements. This morning in North Carolina, they're cleaning up after hail cracked windows and damaged cars. In Potosi, Missouri,
It hit the transformer.
75-mile-per-hour winds ripping trees from the ground in Ohio.
As you can tell, they're not small trees.
In Idaho, roads in need of a good plow after nearly 6 inches of hail hit the ground. Drivers of cars and buses caught off guard. The St. Louis skyline lit up with lightning. This bolt getting dangerously close to planes.
Winter barely behind us. Tornado season is quickly firing up with several states on alert right now for severe weather. This on the heels of last night's violent storms that triggered massive flooding, especially in Kentucky, where a mother and child were swept away in their car and remain missing. Right now, firefighters in Louisville are still wrestling with this massive industrial fire that may have been sparked by lightning.
Overnight, more than 30 million Americans dealing with a deadly string of storms. Tornado warning sirens sounding the alarms as hail, torrential rains, and wind up to 68 miles per hour battered Tennessee, causing power outages in thousands of homes and reports of dime-sized hail in Georgia. In Kentucky Friday, roads collapsing as rushing waters tear through neighborhoods. One woman dead after floodwaters swept her car off the road.
And to some frightening moments in the skies over Seattle. 2 separate planes struck by lightning as they tried to land during severe weather.
They are striking pictures. Not just one, but 2 jets hit by lightning over Seattle. Last night's storm around the airport hit the jets as they were preparing to land. Jets are designed to take a lightning strike. Testing in a lab, these Boeing engineers make sure the electricity flow is outside the jetliner, never entering the cabin.
We begin with breaking news overnight, a devastating and deadly earthquake in Nepal. The quake was a magnitude 7.9.
It was just after noon when the killer earthquake struck and triggered chaos on the streets of the capital, Kathmandu. The quake ripped through roads. Centuries-old temples and monuments came tumbling down.
Suddenly, without warning, the shockwaves hit Nepal.
The ground shook quite hard for, I would say, possibly about 30 seconds.
Shaken residents then jolted by aftershocks, the terror returning again and again.
Every time that there was a tremor, everyone would say, it's coming again, the panic would rise.
Religious temples and historical monuments in pieces everywhere.
This morning, buildings buckling in Nepal. 6.7 aftershock sending an already shaken community running and turned this once gleaming monument into a pile of bricks. The original magnitude 7.8 earthquake felt by nearly 6 million people in Nepal, India, China and Bangladesh, even unleashing massive avalanches 100 miles away on Mount Everest.
Among the dead, American climber Dan Fredenberg, a Google executive.
Officials say it is the worst to hit the region in more than 80 years.
That volcano erupting back to life for the first time in 40 years. Tonight, a state of emergency as they now prepare for an even bigger eruption. Dramatic new images streaming in tonight. This drone footage, plumes of smoke filling the sky.
The eruption from the Calbuco volcano came with little warning, spewing a mushroom cloud of ash and smoke more than 6 miles up into the sky above southern Chile. A second blast, less than 24 hours later, put on a dazzling display as lightning bolts of static electricity shot through the orange plume of smoke. More than 4,000 people evacuated from within a 12-mile radius of the volcano, which showered nearby communities with ash.
Experts worry that the ash could contaminate water and cause widespread respiratory problems.
I cannot even begin to imagine what that must have been like to walk out of their homes and look up and see that.
It looks like Independence Day, like the movie, right?
Absolutely.
Where everything's falling apart.
It almost doesn't look real.
Yeah.
Locals have started returning to their homes 4 days after Chile's Calbuco volcano violently erupted. The volcano erupted last week, taking the country by surprise. A photographer captured this image in the ash cloud. It looks like a human form is emerging from the plume.
Severe storms are threatening many across the south this morning after several tornadoes touched down overnight.
Keeping some of the most experienced storm chasers on their toes.
Oh my gosh, this is the biggest hail I've ever seen.
I want to turn to something that's been happening in Jefferson Parish. We told you about the rail cars that actually tumbled off of elevated tracks next to the Huey P. Long Bridge.
It was quite a different experience. You know, I started my journey going across the Huey P. Long Bridge. I looked up and the sky was absolutely just black.
Wow, oh my gosh, look at this. Look at this video.
Then,
you said to me, this is something that happens in movies.
Exactly.
We're going to turn now to the 50 million bracing for severe storms coming tonight from Texas all the way up to Michigan. The tornado outbreak deadly already, at least 5 dead.
I lived in Cisco for over 10 years now, and I haven't seen anything like this.
I don't know that I've seen this kind of damage in Nashville since I've been in the department here for over 17 years.
Deadly storms have pounded Texas, Oklahoma, and Arkansas for days.
This mesocyclone and potential tornado spinning right overhead.
Whoa! All right. More very dangerous storms ripping through communities in the Midwest overnight. Down in Texas, record rainfall and lightning sparking fires. And as we head into the weekend, forecasters are predicting even more wild weather.
A storm shelter designed to save lives ripped from the ground. Tornado.
This one means business.
After tornado.
Oh my gosh.
Lightning sparking fires.
Oh my God, a fire.
And bringing torrential rainfall. And after all that, a 4.0 earthquake striking 30 miles southwest of Dallas. Oklahoma City issuing its first flash flood emergency ever. A new daily rainfall record of just over 7 inches. Officials now say it is the worst natural disaster in the state's history.
Are underwater during the rainiest early July the state has seen in years. People in Torrance County say it is the worst flooding they have ever seen.
This is what I'm talking about. This building was actually ripped from its foundation. These massive trees just split in half.
The rains came very quickly.
And so did the flooding. It's something workers here say is devastating to see.
We have torrential rains, but we've never, in the history of the ranch, people have been coming here. This is our 60th anniversary, and people have been coming here for 60 years. They have never seen anything like this before.
Of northern Kentucky really saw some of the worst damage today that we've seen so far.
Can't do anything about acts of God, that's for sure.
This morning, at least 6 people are still missing in Kentucky after violent flooding. 2 people died from the rushing water. Indiana and Illinois are also dealing with severe weather.
A violent line of storms pummeling its way through the Midwest has washed away homes and shattered communities here in Kentucky.
Oh my God!
Days of torrential rainfall have left people here struggling to regroup. Josh Hitchcock shot this video of a house slamming into a bridge moments after he watched the raging waters of Big Mud Lick take his own home.
Where was your house?
It was right there.
Right there. Mm-hmm. And where did it end up?
Ended up all the way down there.
About 125 feet away.
Yeah.
He said it happened in a matter of seconds.
It's never been like this, never gotten this bad to where it's been flooded.
And it wasn't just storms. Blazing temperatures causing heat exhaustion for 300 people at a Luke Bryan concert in Nashville, sending 15 to the hospital. Fire fully engulfing this Pentecostal church in Indiana.
It sounded almost like a sonic boom. It was thundering and storming, and I thought the lightning must have struck really close.
A lot going on with weather and a couple of dangerous days ahead.
Next to that raging wildfire in California leaping onto a highway like a scene from a disaster movie. Take a look at this. Drivers trapped on the road at rush hour, many abandoning their cars.
More than a dozen vehicles caught fire and were destroyed when a wildfire jumped the main road to Las Vegas.
Some make it through.
Oh my God. I
can feel the heat.
17-year-old Talia Sclafani took this photo as she ran to safety. But the fire continued to burn into nearby brush into the evening hours, burning structures and forcing evacuations.
Lightning storm sparking new fires here in California tonight as the sun set, the nearby Pine Fire blowing up. Hundreds of campers, including these Girl Scouts, evacuated.
And in Washington state, where lightning has already sparked fires this summer, hundreds forced from their homes today.
The record number of wildfires in Saskatchewan has forced the Canadian military to step in. Over 122 fires are still burning, and some of them have grown to be the size of major cities.
This morning, hundreds of firefighters are battling a fast-moving wildfire near California's famed Napa Valley. A building burned overnight near Lake Berryessa, close to where the fire started.
Flames and smoke so thick they blocked out the sun.
We got trailers involved at this time. The wind shifted.
What started as a brush fire exploded fast.
It is one of 9 active wildfires burning in California.
Billowing smoke and crackling flames created an orange and black backdrop for tankers fighting the massive fire.
Animals in this rural area fled the flames. There are at least 20 large wildfires now burning in the west. In Montana's Glacier National Park, flames have torn through the dry mountains, forcing one family to quickly escape.
Yeah, oh my gosh, go. Okay, Larry, we need go now, go. Like, no, fast, Dad, go.
Here in California, there is a lot of scorched earth, but you can hear those helicopters above.
We just grabbed the things that were important to us, our dog, the rest is in God's hands.
California is under a state of emergency tonight. The number of wildfires sparked by a historic drought is growing. They're raging from north of San Francisco all the way to the Mexican border. One firefighter is dead, and the flames have also destroyed homes and forced hundreds to seek safety.
Driver lucky to be alive, teetering over that bridge. In fact, we're told tonight 30 miles of bridges throughout the storm zone being inspected tonight, possibly weakened by the storms. In Moreno, California, streets turned into rivers. Incredible pictures. And in Wickenburg, Arizona, That is a pool right there in the backyard, surrounded by the rushing waters.
Torrential rains and flash floods swamping the drought-ridden Southwest.
The street is flooding.
All part of a series of storms that were very strong and very rare. In Southern California, it caused flash floods, turning streets into fast-moving rivers, forcing road closures and leaving drivers stuck.
This parking lot has now become a river.
In California, nearly 7 inches of rain in just a few hours, washing away that bridge. The main conduit between Los Angeles and Phoenix wiped away. This pickup truck careening into the watery chasm. Its driver, injured, was plucked to safety.
It's really raining, though.
And the wet weather also took out the ball game. The Angels were rained out at home Sunday night for the first time in 20 years. July is normally the driest month of the year in Southern California. More than a quarter inch of rain fell in downtown Los Angeles Saturday, breaking a nearly 220-year-old record.
It's like a scene out of a scary movie. Millions of mayflies gathered on a bridge in Cibola, Iowa, forcing the Department of Transportation to shut the bridge down over the weekend.
Go ahead.
You might want to get DOT out here, the shad flies. It's like ice on this bridge.
A video posted online shows a police officer calling for backup before stepping out into the cloud of mayflies, many of which rushed into the vehicle.
I've lived in Cibola since '75. I've never ever seen that many before, ever.
It looked like a scene from a horror movie as swarms of locusts appeared in southern Russia this week.
The temperature is rising, records are falling, especially in the West, where this July has been one of the hottest ever.
I've never seen flames so tall, 200, 300-foot flames.
Stephen Gilardi said the wind shifted, and within minutes the fire began to bear down on his ranch. Gilardi watched as crews tried to save his property.
Comes as Joaquin hammered islands in the central Bahamas overnight. Meteorologists still trying to figure out exactly how the storm will affect us. So here's meteorologist John Gunn.
Yeah, we're getting a really good handle on that this morning, guys. First of all, I want to show you, Joaquin, this is a monster hurricane, a Category 4 hurricane, 130-mile-an-hour winds. It is just doing a number on the Bahamas this morning. Horrible conditions down there, gusts to 161. It is finally starting to move to the north. That's the motion that we've anticipated for days now. Yesterday at this time when I joined you, I told you there were two camps to the computer model, some that took it into the United States. I told you I didn't buy that. The European model is keeping it over the ocean. Now all models starting to follow the European model in keeping this thing out to sea.
Devastating storms hit South Carolina this weekend. 40,000 people are now without water and 26,000 have no power. Polo Sandoval has the latest from Columbia, South Carolina, on the rescue and recovery efforts.
This is dangerous. This is very real.
A weekend of record rainfall has wreaked havoc on South Carolina. Some parts of the state were hit with 25 inches of rain. Governor Nikki Haley says they're starting to transition from response mode to assessment, but they're not quite out of the woods yet.
I can't stress enough that this is not a fun event. We don't want to have to come out and rescue, and much worse, we don't want to have you added to this number of fatalities.
Officials are calling this a 1-in-1,000-year rainfall. Even as the precipitation begins to taper off, the flooding rages on. 550 roads and bridges are closed as hundreds of National Guardsmen and 19 air and water rescue teams scramble to pull residents from the rising waters. The waters that officials warn are on the move.
What you will see happen is as the water shifts down, we're going to pre-position where the roads are closed. So roads are closed now in the upstate. You're going to start to see road closures down from the Midlands down to the low country.
State officials continue to urge residents to stay home and stay off the roads.
We're telling them to stay home right now. None of the restaurants are open. Most of the grocery stores are closed. They need to just stay off the road.
Governor Haley says it could take days for roads in the hardest hit areas of the state to become accessible. In Columbia, South Carolina, I'm Gomez Sandoval reporting.
And we will have more on the historic flooding on Local 12 News at 5:30.
Tidal Max and the Liberty right there, the whole entire roof has collapsed there. Just water gushing into those businesses at this point. Jersey Mike's, I can see the water's up halfway, covering. You can see the logo is even covered up to the Mike's part that was on the top of the roof there, so that's completely submerged. Advanced Auto Parts parking lot completely full. The water creeping up in there as well. I'd imagine it's flooded.
Fresh anxiety here today, just as days of relentless rain and flooding began to subside. In fact, this afternoon we were among those given just minutes to move from our original location along a swollen creek to higher ground when that dam opened up. At least 9 people have died in South Carolina following what officials are calling a 1,000-year storm. Hundreds have been forced from their homes, roads and bridges are closed, and clean water has been cut to thousands. The slow-moving storm system dumped over 16.5 inches of rain here in Columbia Sunday alone. That, according to the National Weather Service, made it the single rainiest spot in the U.S. in more than 16 years. We begin here tonight with NBC's Kerry Sanders.
A major dam breach caused raging, powerful water to rush through several communities, triggering a full-scale evacuation in some areas. The greatest fear, a larger dam downriver could get hit by a wall of water and also give way.
We've got to get people downstream evacuated. Because if this dam goes, the 50,000 people are going to be washed away.
The damage across South Carolina tonight is heartbreaking. Residents now calling this the biblical floods of 2015. Several dead, 550 roads and bridges washed out or closed.
We don't want to have to come out and rescue, and much worse, we don't want to have you added to this number of fatalities.
Flash floods triggering more than 200 rescues, in some cases high drama moments of life or death, including a Coast Guard rescue of a mother and her 15-month-old daughter from the roof of their flooded home.
It's terrifying.
Today they spoke with NBC News.
All I focused on was singing her the ABCs and praying.
At its worst, the flooding here along the Congaree River was moving so much water so quickly it could fill 2 Olympic swimming pools every second.
In Columbia, broken water mains cut off drinking water to 40,000. Bottled water now a prized possession. The damage in homes is devastating.
Water was up to here at one point.
The escape stories harrowing.
We swam out the window. The water was out up to here, inside now.
One amazing story of survival comes from the Reading family. 2-week-old Ann Tucker started hiccuping and coughing at 3:15 in the morning, waking up her family, who had no idea their house was filling up quickly.
Hiccups saved their lives.
The National Guard has deployed more than 1,300 troops to help in a disaster that tonight is far from over.
This area here in Columbia has already been flooded once. If the dam upriver breaks again, the authorities plan to send out an emergency alert to evacuate to the tens of thousands of people in this area on higher ground, because they say the water's expected to rise 2 feet a minute. Lester?
All right, Kerry Sanders in Columbia tonight. Al Roker was with me here. Any break in the forecast here?
The good news is the rain is done just about, Lester, at least here in Columbia. But the rainfall amounts, as you have mentioned, are staggering when you look at what these rainfall totals are. Anywhere from 26 inches of rain to as much as 14 inches of rain throughout the area. And the good news is, we look at the latest radar, the heaviest rain is over. It's moving up into the North Carolina area, the Outer Banks through Tuesday. Localized heavy rain possible, but this is just about over. But again, Lester, everybody on edge because of
Federal forecasters are warning about a big change to come this winter, which will feel different from recent years because of El Nino, back and with a vengeance. In fact, one of the strongest ever.
We've been in a lot of thunderstorms, and these were some of the strongest winds that I've ever personally experienced.
Developing off the coast of southwestern Mexico, a storm meteorologists say is of historic proportions.
This is an unprecedented hurricane in terms of the strength of the storm. What is really unusual about this storm is that it did undergo explosive intensification over the past 24 hours or so.
Now to Hurricane Patricia, or what's left of it. 24 hours ago, it was the most powerful hurricane ever recorded in this hemisphere. One that seemed to come out of nowhere. It made landfall in Mexico last night with 165-mile-per-hour winds. The so-called perfect storm apparently hit the perfect place, a sparsely populated stretch of the coast, and Patricia left remarkably little damage as it weakened into a tropical depression.
Weather system is slamming the Midwest with heavy rains and strong winds, and it is moving east. A line of powerful storms is churning near the Great Lakes.
Whoa! The howling winds toppled trees, tore down power lines, and flipped over semi-trucks. People who live in the area were shaken.
It sounded like more than one freight train put together. I've never heard a sound like that in my whole life.
We're watching a tornado form right here in our parking lot. The storm system stretched to Missouri, fueled these lightning strikes over Chicago. In Oklahoma, wind gusts of 60 miles per hour whipped several wildfires out of control, burning down this home and forcing evacuations as firefighters struggle to keep up with the flames.
The wind was originally out of the west, blowing to the east, and it didn't matter what we did.
In the South and the Midwest face a storm threat today. Heavy downpours and suspected tornadoes already hit Texas and Oklahoma, hammering the cars and the buildings there.
The roof of the building just blew off.
A likely tornado ripped through the roof of this office building Thursday, sending sheets of metal debris flying through the air. Flash flood warnings were posted in Corsicana. And in Fort Worth, a steady stream of violent lightning strikes lit up the night sky. The powerful line of storms lashed the region with violent winds, strong enough to knock over trees in Oklahoma and pummeled Decatur with baseball-sized hail. At least 3 tornadoes were reported in Texas, where the wicked weather even put football on hold. High winds toppled these stadium lights in Ponder moments after the field was evacuated.
Well, I think that we're very blessed, and I've seen a lot of weird things, and this was certainly
in a year
unusual.
full of unusual weather events, this one ranks right up there. A powerful cyclone is about to slam into one of the most arid deserts in the world. This storm is churning towards an al-Qaeda-controlled city in Yemen.
They've never seen something equivalent of a hurricane or typhoon make landfall. So unusual.
Residents were forced to take shelter as Cyclone Chapala hit the remote island. More than 1,000 families evacuated before the storm hit. Chapala brought strong winds, heavy rain, and powerful waves to Socotra.
Another rare cyclone hits the Yemeni island of Socotra, resulting in the death of at least one person. The powerful storm, named Meg, hit the island on Sunday, November 8th. Less than a week ago, Cyclone Chapala killed 11 people on Socotra and the mainland. It dumped nearly a decade's worth of rain on Yemen in just 2 days.
Many of us got a powerful wake-up call at 1:42 this morning when an earthquake in Oklahoma shook us awake. It had dozens of people calling 911.
You're not the only one who felt the earthquake this morning. People have taken to Twitter and Facebook talking about how it woke them up this morning. The USGS recorded the 4.7 earthquake near Cherokee, Oklahoma.
And one of the interesting things, I want to show you this here. This is a picture from the National Weather Service of the radar. All the birds taking off when the earthquake hit, it picked up on radar. Very cool.
We weren't the only ones who felt it. In fact, it was so powerful that it could be felt more than 950 miles to the west in Tucson, Arizona, and all the way to the northeast to Chicago. And that's just the latest in a wild week where we've seen tornadoes, blizzards, and topped off with this morning's quake.
At least 3 people were killed and thousands are without electricity after hurricane-force winds howled across the Northwest.
Oh my God.
70-mile-per-hour winds toppled 175 trees in the city of Spokane, Washington in less than an hour Tuesday.
Oh, that one's going right there.
Where? Oh! Overnight, residents were told not to go outside.
How severe was the wind around 9 p.m. when the neighbor's tree fell on your home?
Oh man, it was something else. I don't know. I've never heard wind like that before.
But even residents who are used to dealing with flooding were surprised by this storm.
I've never seen it come up that fast.
In southwest Colorado, 100-mile-per-hour winds led to near whiteout conditions. Nearly 3 feet of snow has fallen in parts of Colorado over the last 72 hours.
Now to that powerful storm sweeping across the country, responsible for dozens of reported tornadoes. Look at that large twister in Texas overnight.
Oh my God.
Massive tornadoes, violent storms, and blinding snow. 5 tornadoes were reported in Texas. The fierce storms churned out violent lightning strikes, leaving more than 6,000 people without power.
Here in Texas, 13 reported twisters touching down. 4 of those reports coming after a tornado tore through the town of Pampa in pitch darkness.
Oh my God! We have a gigantic tornado right in front of us! Power lines exploding!
One of those tornadoes reportedly at least a mile wide, leveling a Halliburton plant.
This Christmas Eve morning, hundreds of people are waking up to utter devastation.
Holy mackerel!
The destruction caused by a deadly tornado outbreak cutting across the South and Midwest.
See debris.
The tornado claiming multiple lives, including a 7-year-old boy, as residents desperately tried to hide in their cars and homes.
And by the time I got out of my car, I had a tree that was in my windshield.
Right here. In northern Mississippi, this tornado tore through a busy highway.
Oh!
Watch as the massive twister tosses this tractor trailer as it barrels through traffic. Watch from this angle, from what appears to be the same semi. This driver just feet away. The winds in southwestern Tennessee roared up to 75 miles per hour as officials declared a state of emergency.
The houses just exploded and they were buried in the rubble.
2 people were killed east of Memphis, their bodies found under debris.
We were in the house, we heard the wind picking up. We had 45 seconds and it just hit. We walked out of the storm shelter, everything was gone.
And in Arkansas, an 18-year-old woman died when a tree fell through her house, toppled by the high winds and heavy rain.
Oh, it's very big. Oh, it's massive. Oh my gosh, it's big. It's hitting stuff. Oh, it's a big tornado. Big, big, strong tornado.
There it goes.
Are you getting it?
Yep.
Oh, the sound of it. There it is.
Oh, there it is. Whoa!
Oh, it's big.
That is big, big, big.
Oh! There's stuff flying in the air. Get it? Yeah.
I got it. I got it.
Oh, there's people stopping on the highway. Regulation, but it's there. There it is. I see it.
Yeah, there you go. More power flashes.
Whoa, I just got a lightning strike.
Overnight in eastern Texas, blinding rain, lightning, and strong winds in the city of Marshall. Down trees and power lines, possibly the work of yet another tornado, touching down in the Lone Star State. Last night, patrons inside a Chili's restaurant huddling inside a freezer as tornado sirens sound off. A tornado watch still in effect today. This morning, the monster storm system wreaking havoc across the southern states, making its way eastward.
Oh, it's a big tornado. Big, strong tornado.
Over the Christmas weekend, Texas bearing the brunt of the storm, ravaged by nearly half a dozen deadly tornadoes. An airplane passenger snapping this stunning photo of the massive storm system on a flight to Dallas. Two powerful EF3 and EF4 twisters carving a path of destruction in Rowlett and nearby Garland on Saturday. The death toll, 11, making this the deadliest December for tornadoes in 60 years. Justin Schuler sifts through what remains of his home in Garland. He and his dog survived by taking cover in a bathtub.
I stepped out because I heard the roaring, and that's when I saw it.
Willard Jordan heard the tornado rip through his neighborhood in Dallas. His family and home spared.
Buildings cracking, ripping stuff up, and all we could do was run to the closet and pray.
And this Garland resident rescued by family.
So I just stayed in my closet all night long, shaking like a leaf on a tree.
The deadly storm also spawning flash floods, whiteout conditions, and states of emergency in New Mexico and Missouri. In Missouri, more than 100 water rescues. At least 6 people killed in Pulaski County, swept away by floodwaters Saturday night.
It's a small, dark highway. They probably did not know what hit them until they hit the water.
The massive system dumping more than 16 inches of snow in New Mexico. Icy roads backing up traffic and shutting down Interstate 40 in Albuquerque.
We got in the truck and we were headed down the service road, and basically the apartments behind us were spinning around at a couple of 100 miles an hour, and I looked up and I put the truck into park, and we could hear again all of this debris spinning around hitting the truck. It was just boom, 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 and the truck was shaking, and we knew at that point that all we could do was get down, and I just kept hollering, get down, stay down, stay down. And the debris, shaking the truck back and forth. And it was at that point, literally, I could feel the truck lifting up out of the air. And, I thought, I'm gone, I'm dead. And I don't really remember anything. And that's kind of the good news. I think if I could say anything, it's at that point, I don't remember anything. We literally lifted up off the ground. The truck rolled, and, God saved us. My Toyota Tundra saved us at that point. And we just rolled and went over into the median, and we came up on the driver's side of the truck. When the truck started lifting up, we totally blacked out, and we came up and we looked at each other and realized that we were both okay, and we had our seatbelts on, and she undid her seatbelt and climbed out the top, and someone was standing there talking to us. I suspect it probably wasn't long, and we climbed out of the vehicle, and when we came out, there were literally cars that had flown off of the highway and were within feet of us. There was debris everywhere. Literally, a riding lawnmower was just over there. There were parts of the guardrail, 10-foot sections of guardrail that were stabbed just 5-6 feet into the ground. And when I went to the wrecking yard, there was a piece of 2x4, look, something like that, just a big arrow laying in the back seat of the car.
crews from the National Weather Service are out looking through the damage left behind from this weekend's tornado outbreak in North Texas. Now, this is an aerial view from this morning as a chopper flew over the towns where at least 9 tornadoes touched down Saturday night. They killed 11 people and damaged almost 1,500 homes. Now, the hardest hit areas were Copeville, Rowlett, and Garland, just northeast of Dallas. KXAN's Phil Prazen is in Garland, where an EF4 tornado hit.
Imagine waking up to this. Here at the landmark apartments along I-30 in Garland, people had to get out quick. Witnesses say the worst of the storm came and went in about 45 seconds. Now, Governor Abbott declared an emergency in this area because more than $35 million worth of damage has been done. But you can see by just walking around, more damage has been done than that. And it's a disaster that many saw coming, but few could do anything to stop it. At least 9 tornadoes touched down around Lake Ray Hubbard. The Dallas suburbs of Garland and Rowlett were hit the worst.
I cannot believe that this amount of damage was done in probably 30 seconds, but it felt like a lifetime. It did. I'm sorry. I'm a teacher, and we have kids in this neighborhood, and their houses are gone.
Christmas weekend this year turned into a nightmare for many families. Early Monday morning, the count stands at 80 homes destroyed, more than 20 injured, 11 dead, several still missing. Jessica Morgan's family huddled in the bathroom.
We were praying. We were all praying. I was on top of Kimber, covering her. My husband's covering me.
This week they'll begin the slow rebuilding process. Many are thankful their families are safe. At least 11 were torn apart. And there is much to rebuild here in Garland. Out of those 40 people, more than 40 people that died nationwide in these storms, 11 of them were in these northeast suburbs of Dallas. 8 of them were here in Garland. Reporting live from Garland, Phil Prazen, KXAN News.
And a smaller EF2 tornado killed a 3-day-old baby in Blue Ridge. A woman says she and her neighbor tried to get the little girl to the hospital while the baby's father tried to rescue her mother.
Just kept saying, oh my God, to Jim, the neighbor, please baby, be okay, baby. And I was holding her little fingers. You know how when they're little, they like to curl their little fingers around you. Her little hand was cold.
And county officials say the girl's parents and 3 other children were taken to the hospital.
And there is more dangerous weather tonight. Blizzard conditions in parts of Texas, Oklahoma, and New Mexico. Let's bring in David Payne, chief meteorologist at our Oklahoma City affiliate KWTV. David, what's happening there?
Well, Jeff, it's been a wild day so far. We've had a lot of ice, a lot of sleet here in Oklahoma, flooding rains in eastern Oklahoma. It's just a big mess around here. I-40 westbound, again, west of Oklahoma City, has been shut down several times today due to just simply too much ice and too much sleet. And we are not through yet. More on the way. Jeff, back to you.
David Payne, thank you very much. Farther west in Roswell, New Mexico, here's Cheyenne Cope of our Albuquerque affiliate KRQE.
I'm standing in probably about 2.5 feet of snow right now. It's all the way up to my knees and it's causing for some dangerous road conditions. Several roads have been shut down due to dangerous conditions across the area. Police are asking people to play it safe and stay off the road, saying they've never seen snow drifts like this before. The snow started falling yesterday and hasn't stopped. A blizzard warning is in effect across the east central plains. Yesterday, people here in Roswell scrambled to get last-minute essential supplies, clearing store shelves of snow shovels and other goods to tide them over through the storm. In Roswell, New Mexico, Cheyenne Cope, CBS News.
The deadliest tornado in the Dallas area in 88 years. An EF4 with winds topping 160 miles an hour plowed through Garland, Texas last night, flattening hundreds of homes. In North Texas, at least 11 were killed.
Good morning, David. I want to give you a sense of the devastation here. This goes on house after house over a 40-mile stretch here in North Texas, mixing things like Christmas stockings and car parts. And we're not talking about homes that were flimsily built, but places made out of brick and mortar.
Tornado on the ground.
Overnight, raging tornadoes blasting through Arkansas.
We better go. We better go.
This one caught bulldozing a house and spewing out debris.
Oh my God!
This after a string of tornadoes scarred a 40-mile swath of Texas this weekend. Police saying at least 11 were killed here in Texas.
Just total disbelief. Everything on the back side of my house was on the front side of my house.
From the air, you can see the path the storm gouged, a football field-wide lane reduced to splinters. With the tornado bearing down, these people ducked into a freezer at Chili's. The tornado Saturday night blowing up transformers.
That's it! That's a tornado!
In the pitch black, the lightning illuminating the monster EF4 tornado.
Gosh, it's big!
When it descended on Interstate 30, some motorists had nowhere to hide. 8 people were killed there.
It's crossing the highway right there.
In daylight, we drove through those devastated neighborhoods.
The scope of the destruction in these neighborhoods is absolutely astounding.
That tornado so powerful, it nearly toppled Rowlett's water tower. 400 homes damaged there.
As far as the roof, all this is gone.
Norma Jimenez was saved when she and 5 family members crowded in their bathroom.
Just very grateful that we're alive.
Before this week, 2015 was shaping up to be a record low year for deaths from tornadoes. But since Wednesday, they have claimed at least 28 lives, nearly tripling the number this year. Survivors are telling remarkable stories tonight.
It's unbelievable that anybody could come out of there alive.
Linda Helen's family survived. They only had 2 minutes to get into a coat closet when the tornado hit.
The whole front of the house is gone. The only thing left was the closet they were hiding in and the kitchen.
The twister ripped off the roof of neighbor David Dennison's house.
Me and my roommate were just holding each other. I was just praying, whatever. It's crazy. It's an experience I wouldn't wish on anybody.
Heartbreaking, you know, lose everything you ever own.
Michael Norris was at a Christmas party. His house is now gone.
Well, I just flipped over and hit my car and then hit the next door neighbors. Now I got to start all over again.
Sound just like a train.
Frank Montgomery and his family took cover under a stairwell.
Sound like so many trains was just coming, and it was just frightening for all of us.
Several homes were destroyed in the Glen Heights community outside Dallas. Residents broke down to tears when they saw what's left.
It's just sad. It's hard to see all these people's livelihood gone. You know, cars destroyed, flipped over in front of houses, and it's just hard to see.
Here in Garland, more than 600 homes were damaged. 8 people lost their lives. And Jeff, many others returning to scenes like this. Total losses with nothing left to return home to.
I'm just grateful. I'm just grateful to even be alive this morning. It's just history repeating itself. Waking up saying this.
This is unforeseen. No expectations. We thought that this would happen in this area, and especially on Christmas.
Across much of western Oklahoma, ice 1 inch thick coated roads and made driving treacherous. Tractor trailers skidded into trouble. Nearly 200,000 people are without power. Brad and Sarah Ayers and their 3 kids need someplace warm to sleep tonight. Without power, their house feels almost as cold inside as outside.
What's the worst part? Having little ones and it being cold, getting real cold. I mean, the outside stuff, you can get rid of all the limbs and everything else, but in here, you know, it gets pretty cold.
The huge winter storm's impact stretched from Oklahoma to New Mexico. Interstate 40 closed for more than 200 miles from Albuquerque to the Texas state line.
In Amarillo, Texas, winds gusted up to 50 miles per hour. Nearly 15 inches of snow created drifts that buried cars. In eastern Oklahoma, that same storm system brought heavy rains and flooding. The Illinois River is expected to crest at 29 feet. Since Saturday, nearly 10 inches of rain has fallen in Tahlequah, where Brian Berry lives.
We're known for getting like 40 inches a year. We got a fourth of that this weekend. So it's a crazy year.
British authorities have called in the army to help people affected by severe flooding in the northwest. Some 500 soldiers have been sent to Lancashire and Yorkshire, which are said to be the worst hit counties. An additional 1,000 troops are on standby. The deployment follows an emergency cabinet meeting where Prime Minister David Cameron pledged to reach the affected population. Meanwhile, rescuers have been evacuating homes in York, and Leeds, where water levels are still rising. Thousands of homes remain without power in the north of England, Wales, and Scotland. Hundreds of flood warnings are in place around the country. Britain is in the midst of its second major flooding after Storm Desmond caused havoc in many towns and villages earlier this month.
Been on standby to attend different incidents with the power boats that we've got, and we've been helping with medical evacuations. So people have needed to go to hospital, but they're unable to take ambulances to where these people live, and also evacuating people who are no longer able to leave their own house due to the water.
I've lived here for 31 years and I've never seen anything as bad as this, and
emergency declarations are in place this morning in 3 southern states rocked by violent weather. A massive storm system across the southeast and Midwest spawned at least 34 tornadoes.
It devastated everybody because never in the history of this town ever seen this.
Dangerous weather is taking aim at the U.S. this holiday weekend as storms batter the south. A dramatic wildfire is forcing evacuations in the west.
Oh my God, we are driving through fire.
A holiday nightmare greeted drivers in Southern California Christmas night.
We can't see anything.
Oh my God.
This is scary. This is like it's going to jump the freeway.
Then it did, forcing many people to either turn back or drive into the thick smoke. Over and over, drivers passed flames right at the roadway's edge. Fire officials saying powerful Santa Ana winds gusting 45 miles an hour carried embers over the highway, pushing it across what should have been a natural barrier. The State Highway Patrol shut down parts of the 101 and the nearby Pacific Coast Highway. County officials immediately put the Solomar Beach community under mandatory evacuation and surrounding areas on voluntary status.
Extreme heat is fueling an epidemic of wildfires in Australia. As Jonathan Bigliotti reports, nearly every part of that country is affected.
Australian officials say lightning combined with dry conditions and strong winds sparked more than 300 separate wildfires in the state of Victoria on Saturday.
Hart County now, dead fish are washing ashore and no one really knows why. News 6 reporter Kirsten O'Connor has more on what researchers are doing to figure out what is killing these fish.
It's not what you'd expect to find on the shoreline of Satellite Beach. A lot of beachgoers today expected to find seashells are stepping over hundreds of dead fish. We checked with Florida Fish and Wildlife. Their fish kill hotline coordinator says this is still a mystery.
Millions of Americans this morning face the threat of flooding. Torrential downpours of swollen rivers in Illinois and Missouri. Mandatory evacuations are underway at this hour. In Missouri, flooding is blamed for at least 13 deaths.
The Mississippi River could reach about 14 feet above its flood stage in St. Louis. Flooding may affect about 18 million people in states along the river from Illinois to Louisiana. Anna Werner is in West Alton, Missouri, where residents have been told to get out. Anna, good morning.
Good morning. This is what you are seeing in a lot of areas around St. Louis, or they're waiting for it to happen. This is river water coming this way, and it looks like kind of just a generic area or a field. But if I walk over here, you can see where we really are. This is supposed to be the southbound lane of US 67, but as you can tell, there's no divided highway here. Because of the severity of this flooding, the National Guard has been activated statewide to help fight the floods.
The water has surrounded West Alton, Missouri, where residents were told Tuesday it's time to leave.
We emptied our basement out of anything important. We cleaned out the house of clothes.
As the Mississippi River threatened St. Louis County, it took teamwork to fill 20,000 sandbags. Officials pleaded for help and the community responded.
Just like the movie Field of Dreams, if you build it, they'll come.
The Army Corps of Engineers is monitoring 19 vulnerable levees on the rising Mississippi River and its tributaries. Missouri Governor Jay Nixon.
Water levels in some locations are predicted to exceed the historic crest during the Great Flood of 1993.
This was Hannibal, Missouri in July 1993 when the river crested 22 feet above flood stage. 9 states saw flooding, 50 people died. Nearly 150 major rivers and tributaries were affected. And the floodwaters caused a spectacle.
I drove in from Kansas last night just to come over here and look at this.
After flooding pushed untreated sewage from this plant into nearby rivers and streams, residents of High Ridge, Missouri fortified their treatment plant to keep the flood out of the drinking water supplied to thousands. In Union, Missouri, water crept up over porch steps as rescue boats skipped by. Cindy Nations claims her neighborhood isn't prone to flooding.
And they would not sell me flood insurance. So I've never been concerned about it.
Hundreds of people have been evacuated. We have several structures and homes that are underwater right now, and the National Guard has been activated as a serious river flooding situation is ongoing and just going to continue to go on over the next several days. That's the Merrimack River in Missouri, just one example of the river flooding that's going on right now. Now, this all initially started with flash flooding, and most of these deaths, this is how many people have died from flooding alone over the last several days. At least 22 people between 4 states. A lot of those deaths were from people trying to drive through low water crossings. Now, the Mississippi River is the one that's rising a lot right now, of course, along with a lot of other ones. But here's just one example. 6 days ago in St. Louis, okay, notice where that water level is. And then yesterday, you can see how it's a whole lot higher. Now, cities like St. Louis, they're protected pretty well by flood walls. This is not going to be like the 1993 flood. But other cities, not so lucky. Look at this. West Alton, just a little bit north of St. Louis.
started dealing with some serious flooding Tuesday night when a levee broke. This is one of the specific spots where the National Guard was activated. A lot of people have been evacuated, and it's still an ongoing situation.
Now in the northeast.
South Australia is in the grip of another December heat wave, and it's forecast to continue well into the new year.
That massive flooding is part of the wild weather in recent weeks.
Forecast there's a warning of more chaos as fierce storms and floods continue to batter the southern United States.
One local official said today, nobody that is living has ever seen anything like this.
Tonight, a major wildfire in Southern California.
As the flames exploded, this family had just minutes to evacuate.
We're probably going to head to Santa Barbara. I'm 29 years old. I don't think there's ever been a fire this hillside here.
The forecast for a storm that is being called an historic blizzard.
Entire communities have been devastated by this deluge across vast swathes of northern England. The country hit by a series of 6 freak storms.
Some York residents told Sky News this was the worst flood they've seen in 15 years.
Historic winter floods have killed at least 22 people this week in the Midwest.
It has washed away homes, highways.
That is Highway 141.
And shut down water treatment plants.
You're in a scenario that no one here has ever been in. I mean, if that river hits the targets that are predicted right now at that Chester gauge, that is higher than the Mississippi River has ever been.
Millions are facing more severe weather this morning as a series of deadly storms punish parts of the country. Storms in the Midwest, the South, and Plains have killed at least 43 people.
This tornado, captured near Garland, where 11 people were killed, shows transformers igniting as the powerful storm blew through.
This is the worst I think anybody's seen it.
They are images that seem to defy December. Floodwaters raging through Missouri and deadly tornadoes tearing through the South.
The house is gone, but we're still here.
While unusually balmy weather blankets the Northeast over Christmas.
On extreme weather that saw people die in rare tornadoes, flood and wildfires has torn across the earth.
The death toll in Illinois and Missouri rose to 24. The Mississippi River has begun to recede in parts of Missouri, but the trouble is just heading downriver. Nearly 10 million Americans are under flood watches and warnings.
This morning, the Mississippi, the Missouri, and the Merrimack rivers are raging. Homes here have washed away. Neighborhoods are torn apart.
I've never seen that before, and well, it's a historic flood.
Parts of I-44 shut down. The Coast Guard and the National Guard have been deployed. All hands on deck, ready for rescues. In some spots outside St. Louis, flood records have been shattered. In Eureka, they've never been hit this hard.
It's 4 feet high here because I'm 6 feet tall.
With hundreds of homes now islands, thousands more are in danger. Nearly 24 levees are at risk. Power plants, water facilities are down. The rising river cresting around Valley Park, where nearly 900 have been forced to pack up and get out.
It's really devastating to think about everything, our own home going under and everything that's in it.
With the Mississippi River in St. Louis expected to crest today, the flood stage sits at 30 feet. The water here expected to reach 13 feet above that. They're packing tens of thousands of sandbags to fortify cities, big and small. The next 24 hours critical. As the water rises, any sense of comfort vanishes.
I just pray that everything goes good and that we're
I want to know
safe.
your sanctified opinion as to what is next.
Okay, I believe a great shaking is coming to this nation and the world, but this nation.
It will involve the financial realm, the economic realm, and it will be a shaking even greater than that, and not just one shaking. I believe that, in the Bible, the way these things happen, judgment can come through natural disaster, through financial collapse, through man-made disaster like terrorism, all those things. And the thing is that when people say the timing, I'm very cautious. I give the caveat. God doesn't have to do anything according to our schedule. But whether the shaking happens at this time or not, I believe we are entering a dangerous time when it could happen. And that is the time of the Shemitah, all these things coming, the Shemitah's wake in the autumn period. And we have also another dangerous period, which is 2015 to 16, according to all these things.
Wait, how come? You call this the wake of the Shemitah. Explain this.
Yeah, really, the high point, the climax of the Shemitah comes at the end. That's when the wipeout comes, and that ushers in the next period that manifests all that. If you look at the greatest collapses in American history, the period is right after this because it happens after Elul 29. So this whole autumn period, I believe we need to watch. Not that God has to do it, but we need to be ready. One of the reasons why I've given these teachings is that God's people be ready, that we be prepared for that.
Okay. We've heard a lot of, I'll call it for what it is, gloom and doom. No one wants to hear gloom and doom. Not me, not Jonathan. Is there any good news?
Yes, wherever there.
Oh, good.
If I walked out now, it wouldn't be good. Wherever there's God, there's good news. Wherever there's God, there's hope. Now, here's the thing. God is always for redemption. I believe this. I believe the purpose of the shaking is not for Israel. The purpose of the shaking is to bring revival. Meaning, if there was no shaking, I believe there wouldn't be hope. Because America's grown so deafened to God, it's going to take a shaking. Most of us came to the Lord because of a shaking. Same with nations. I believe that the shaking that's coming can, if we are ready, and according to the sovereignty of God, can lead to the greatest revival we have ever seen, ever. End time revival. And there can be judgment and revival at the same time.
Is there a strategy for us? Tell me.
Yeah, I would say, one of the things we talk about is the Elijah paradigm in the teachings. And that is that one is we have to be, more and more God's people have to be unplugged from the world now, more weaned from being dependent on the world when this happens. Number two, we have to be more plugged into God, just like Elijah was, a man of God, man of prayer, man of power. We have to be bold. We have to be committed. There's this is the end times. And Sid, I believe in the end times, it's not just about things getting darker, but there's a polarization. The dark gets darker, but the lights have to get brighter. That's what God is calling us to do. We're to shine. This could be our greatest moment. If these are the days of Elijah, we must become the Elijahs of the day.
Jonathan, a final word.
Listen, people are saying, how do I be safe? Where should I be? Where should I go? Well, the safest place, let me say one Hebrew word. The word for safety in Hebrew is Yeshua. And Yeshua is Jesus. Outside of him, there's no safety. Inside of him, there's no fear. Don't fear. Just get your life in Yeshua, Jesus. If you're in him, get more in him. And you will not fear. You will stand because the Lord will be your safety.
And religious deception will reach epic proportions. There will be famines, there will be pestilences, there will be wars, there will be rumors of wars, there will be even signs in the heavens. All of these things will begin to increase.
Labor pains in nature, which are going to become more and more frequent and more intense the closer we get to the birth of the kingdom of God.
For all the immediate challenges that we gathered to address this week, terrorism, instability, inequality, disease. There's one issue that will define the contours of this century more dramatically than any other. And that is the urgent and growing threat of a changing climate. This once distant threat has moved firmly into the present and into the sting of more frequent extreme weather events.
Labor pains in nature, which are going to become more and more frequent and more intense the closer we get to the birth of the kingdom of God.
No nation is immune. In America, the past decade has been our hottest on record. Along our eastern coast, the city of Miami now floods at high tide. In our west, wildfire season now stretches most of the year. In our heartland, farms have been parched by the worst drought in generations. and drenched by the wettest spring in our history. A hurricane left parts of this great city dark and underwater. Worldwide, this summer was the hottest ever recorded. So the climate is changing faster than our efforts to address it. The alarm bells keep ringing. We are the first generation to feel the impact of climate change and the last generation that can do something about it. We are the first generation to feel the impact of climate change and the last generation that can do something about it.
ISIS, the most brutally violent terror group in modern history.
This is an organization that has an apocalyptic end of days strategic vision.
It is now our generation's task to carry on.
An 8.5 magnitude earthquake has struck a
Our journey is not complete until our gay brothers and sisters are treated like anyone else under the law.
For the second time in less than 3 weeks, Nepal has been rocked by another major earthquake.
Geologists say there's been more seismic activity over the last 7 months than over the last 4 decades. It's the frequency of these shocks that has the public as well as scientists puzzled.
911, what's the address of the emergency? Yes, there's a baby in our garbage can.
This is 2015 when women are ruling the world.
And so much crime going on that they really can't control it. So have we lost our moral compass, or are we just more aware of it now?
Let me ask you something. Are your parents okay with you being here? My parents. My parents.
This is modern day Babylon.
Good evening, godless sodomites.
Never before in the history of this country have so many corrupting influences descended upon children at one time.
Kneel before your God, Babylon!
There's been a lot of buzz over the last few weeks about strange sounds being heard in the atmosphere.
And we start with some breaking news this hour. People in the Urals in Russia have seen burning objects raining down from the sky after a meteorite exploded above Earth.
A terrible mystery gripping the world right now. Birds, fish, and all kinds of creatures just dropping dead in huge numbers for what seems like no reason. It's the latest in a series of unexplained sudden death incidents. The events have sparked a media frenzy, with doomsday speculators saying it hails the end of the world.
165 tornadoes in 24 hours?
Now 11 earthquakes in just the last 24 hours. And of course, the new concern over what's causing this.
Could this be the start of something bigger?
Experiencing one of the worst floods in the past 70 years. The flooding has reached biblical proportions.
A massive tornado at least 2 miles wide. Scientists left baffled. Tonight with breaking news.
The death toll is about to rise.
So there's a lot of changes, geological and seismic changes that are going on.
Increase of earthquakes. According to the United States and geological surveys, the rate of earthquakes and the frequency of earthquakes has increased, and found the current trend was out of the ordinary.
You see this is happening in multiple areas. What's going on? An increase in earthquakes.
Scientists.
This is something that we're seeing around the world. An earthquake that's so massive.
And as technology has revolutionized our ability to communicate with each other, it's also allowed us to celebrate ourselves through boastful tweets, humble brags, status updates, and photos.
Narcissistic traits have been rising at the same rate as obesity.
It's about you.
We're breeding a selfie nation. Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram may all be contributing to a generation of self-absorbed, self-promoting, self-involved oversharers.
It's about you.
What does that say about us?
Look at me. Look at me. Selfie obsession is now reaching new heights.
Based on their observations, the members of the Bulletin of the Atomic Scientists Science and Security Board find conditions in the world to be so threatening that they are moving the hands of the doomsday clock 2 minutes closer to midnight. It is now 3 minutes to midnight. Today, unchecked climate change and a nuclear arms race pose extraordinary and undeniable threats to the continued existence of humanity. And world leaders have failed to act with the speed or on the scale required to protect citizens from potential catastrophe.
What's happening on planet Earth is definitely not business as usual.
To questions about whether this is all a sign of the apocalypse.
This hour, French officials fighting back against terrorists, and terrorists, they'd say, in France.
Breathing air we've never breathed. We'll see colors we've never seen. Every sound like a symphony, rising up as the angels sing. The arms of grace are open wide, the face of love before our eyes, where every tear will disappear. Heaven is real. We're gonna live on Our hearts have been set in motion for something more than we could ever imagine. There's so much more, there's so much more. Our hearts have been set in motion for something more than we could ever imagine. There's so much more, there's so much
God is raising up an army, and it is about to be crazy. This earth is about to be shook.